Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Let me begin by thanking Premier Lance, thanking the Council of the Federation for bringing us together for a very productive meeting of First Ministers. Il s'agissait de notre 14e réunion depuis mars dernier et de notre 5e rencontre en personne, à l'heure où le monde est de plus en plus divisé et incertain. Nous choisissons de nous unir. Nous choisissons de bâtir ensemble. We're in Charlottetown, so I will hearken back to Confederation. More than 160 years ago, the Charlottetown Conference laid the foundation of this country. Many advantages. We look back, though, as well. We recognize that that founding was imperfect. It excluded too many, but it laid the stones on which we can build. And in generations since, Canadians have improved upon it, extending the promise of this country to those it once left out and to those whom we have welcomed to our shores. And we have defended it through crises and tests. We're faced tests today. As everyone knows, on Monday, the U.S. administration announced its intention to impose the latest in a series of unilateral and unwarranted trade actions. Let's be clear about how Canada is responding. Yes, we are intensifying our negotiations with the United States in pursuit of a comprehensive agreement that addresses all tariff-related sectors. In all circumstances, irrespective of the outcome of those negotiations, Canada will do whatever it takes to build our strength at home and to support Canadian families, workers, our farmers, our businesses. We're ready. We're ready because we have been focusing on what we can control. And that's building our strength at home, buying Canadian, backing Canadian workers, building Canadians. That's the resolve of Canadians. That's the foundation on which we're building. We're a reliable partner in a world that's anything but. So we're diversifying our partnerships abroad. The First Ministers at this table have been central to that effort. Provincial premiers have led more than 50 trade missions since we last met in person in January, and over 130 since I became Prime Minister. Our government, the federal government, has signed more than 20 new economic and security partnerships because Canada has what the world wants, and Canada believes in the benefits of free and fair trade. We're also ready because of what we know in our bones, that our unity is our greatest strength and our destiny is in our hands. C'est dans cet esprit que nous sommes réunis aujourd'hui. Nous prenons des mesures pour que notre réseau énergétique soit plus abordable, plus concurrentiel et plus sécuritaire. Nous accélérons les grands projets qui vont transformer notre économie pendant des générations. Nous éliminons les obstacles à la mobilité de la main-d'œuvre et au commerce intérieur. Et nous allons continuer d'agir ensemble avec détermination et avec force pour protéger les travailleurs et les familles du Canada et faire avancer nos intérêts nationaux. Now, we spent a fair bit of time today, in addition to talking about trade, to discussing an electricity strategy. Par exemple, l'objectif de notre prochaine l'objectif de la stratégie nationale d'électrification est de doubler la capacité de notre réseau et de fournir une énergie propre, fiable et abordable dans toutes les régions du pays. Lower energy costs, greater energy security, fewer emissions, building a strong connected grid is how we will achieve all of those objectives at once. And there's already examples. This morning, our government announced an investment in a new subsea power cables across the Northumberland Strait between New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island. Thank Premiers Lance and Holt for their leadership on that. This is the kind of project that's been needed for years. It's the kind of project we need to build up more and more quickly. In addition, today, Premiers Holt, Houston, and Lance signed an agreement to plan and operate their electricity systems together, and the federal government will support that work, increasing reliability, lowering costs, increasing competitiveness for Maritimers. Now, becoming an energy superpower, delivering those benefits for Canadians means more than just a connected grid. It means getting big things built in every part of the country. The agreements between the federal government and the government of British Columbia, the agreement with the government of Alberta, clear the path for major projects in both provinces, projects in clean and conventional energy, in transportation, critical minerals, projects that by themselves, just by themselves in these two agreements, will catalyze well over $200 billion in direct investments in Canada, creating almost 200,000 new jobs right across the country. Benefits shared wisely, benefits shared with the Indigenous peoples as full partners, and creating resources for the social programs on which Canadians rely. All of these examples, and they're examples of a bigger picture of cooperative federalism at work, and we are just getting started. Et maintenant, pour rester concurrentiel, nous devons nous assurer que les bases sont solides. Le Canada doit stimuler les investissements tant dans le secteur de l'énergie propre que dans celui de l'énergie conventionnelle. Nos marchés de carbone doivent aussi être conçus pour attirer des investissements, réduire les émissions au fil du temps et maintenir la compétitivité de nos industries à l'échelle internationale. Et notre gouvernement va travailler avec les provinces et les territoires pour mettre à jour un modèle de tarification du carbone. We also are acting to take down barriers that we've built that exist within this economy. Today, we agreed to work towards agreement in principle, to adopt model mutual recognition, to build one Canadian market, to let Canadians work wherever their skills are needed, drawing on the best advantages of provincial legislation. The Committee on Internal Trade will begin that work this summer. If we get this right, a nurse licensed in Ontario who moves to Nova Scotia will be able to start caring for patients right away. A manufacturer in BC who's already approved to sell engineered wood for homes in Alberta will be able to sell it anywhere in Canada instead of waiting years for that. It's workers and goods moving freely, growing our prosperity. Final point. As First Ministers, we share a fundamental responsibility, which is to keep Canadians safe. And Premier Ford, when you hosted us last year in Muskoka, we had a robust discussion, a series of reforms that were needed to the criminal code, measures to improve community safety. So we've strengthened the criminal code at the federal level, passed 6 laws to combat crime, give law enforcement the tools they need, toughen bail, toughen sentencing. And today, we endorsed a practical joint action plan to continue to make communities safer, building on the progress we've made over the last year. To conclude, we came to Charlottetown as First Ministers with a shared purpose, which is to build a stronger, more prosperous, more independent, more resilient, and united Canada. In a moment when others would choose to divide, we choose to build. This is the Federation working as it should. This is why Canada is ready. We'll continue meeting, keep delivering until the job is done to build Canada strong. Thank you very much, and I'm going to pass to the Chair of the Council of Federation and our host, Premier Lance.
Thank you, Prime Minister. And we are indeed at a pivotal moment in the history of Canada. And over the past 3 days, we've had important conversations about the future of Canada. More than ever, we need to have a united Team Canada approach. Canadians are looking to us for guidance. They want us to look after the best interests of this country, its economy, its sovereignty, and without losing sight of what it means to be Canadian. So with that in mind, today's discussion is about strengthening our economy, improving affordability, building a more secure energy future, supporting health care, can be seen in a new and more important light. Everyone around this table has the same goal, making our respective jurisdictions stronger. Canada is at its best when provinces and territories and the federal government work together. That's exactly what we did here today. As the chair of the Council of the Federation, I've had the privilege of working alongside a strong group of premiers who are committed to the people that they represent. And I've seen how much can be accomplished when we work together. Removing internal trade barriers has been something talked about by politicians for years. It shouldn't be more difficult to do trade between our provinces than it is to do trade between countries. So, in the last 18 months, we've made significant progress. Provinces and territories have introduced legislation that will make it easier to do business across the country. Just last year, P.E.I. passed our Interprovincial Trade and Labour Mobility Act, which removed barriers to trading goods and services, and that's based on a model of mutual recognition. And today we had discussions about expanding that model of mutual recognition more consistently across the country to improve on the work that we've already done. This week, we made significant progress. The direct-to-consumer MOU signed this week. It'll represent big changes for all Canadians and for beverage producers. Serving as the chair has been an opportunity to ensure that Prince Edward Island's voice helped shape a national conversation. Every time Canada's premiers gather, my job is to make sure that P.E.I. isn't just represented, but it's heard. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues facing not only our province, but the entire country. And we had a serious conversation about that today. And I want to thank the Prime Minister for this morning's announcement for funding the pre-development work for our new subsea cables connecting us to the mainland. This was one of my top priorities as Premier. So I'm very, very happy to have this underway with the support of the Prime Minister and the federal government. I also had the pleasure of signing an MOU this morning with Premiers Houston and Premier Holt to work collaboratively on a regional approach to electricity. And I said around the table, I believe this is perhaps unprecedented, this type of regional collaboration on energy issues, and I look forward to that work. So that's progress. That's real action, and I'm happy about that. And now just a few words about having the privilege of hosting the premiers and the Prime Minister over the last few days here in Charlottetown. Hosting the Council of the Federation and today's First Minister's meeting, it's been an opportunity to show my colleagues from across the country what makes Prince Edward Island such a special place. Over the past few days, you've had the chance to experience our world-renowned hospitality, and one of our greatest strengths, our food industry. We had a good taste of that last night. And Prince Edward Island may be Canada's smallest province, but our farmers, fishers, our growers, our food producers, chefs, they're second to none. And we're very proud of them. The quality of the work that they produce, the pride they take in their work, and the care they put into every product have earned this province a reputation that reaches well beyond our shores. So, to everyone who helped share the very best of Prince Edward Island this week, thank you. Thank you very much. You represented our province exceptionally well. And I want to take this opportunity to thank all of the organizers. I have staff that have been working on this for months. I know that nerves are frayed and we're all tired. We're glad to get to the end of these last few days here. And I want to thank the police, various police services that are here and security services that have made this manageable and safe and very functional for us. The Delta Hotel, all of the staff and organizers. This has been a spectacular event. I've heard that from everyone. It's been enjoyable. It's been productive. Everything we want it to be. And finally, it's my pleasure to pass the chair of the Council of the Federation to the Premier of the Northwest Territories, Premier R.J. Simpson. I look forward to working with you. Where's RJ? Which end of the table is he at? There you are. Congratulations. I'm happy to hand the torch to you, and I look forward to seeing you next year. Great. Thank you.
Prendre les questions, s'il vous plaît, vous identifiez à qui la question s'adresse. Please identify yourself and who the question is for. First question, Kate. Kate McKenna, CBC News. This is a question for the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, I'm wondering how you see this window of time of trade talks given the new 30-day deadline. Do you think that this is a meaningful opportunity to approach some sort of end game with the United States, or is it just another pressure tactic from the Trump administration?
It's both. I mean, that's the direct answer. We've seen a series of trade negotiations that the U.S. has undertaken, and normally there's a deadline. Normally there's an outsized tariff associated with that deadline. First observation. The second thing is that I would say that in our interactions this week with various levels of the U.S. administration, mine with the President, Minister LeBlanc, with his counterpart, Madame Charette, with hers, other officials, that there's a level of engagement and a breadth of engagement that reflects the seriousness of the trade relationship and the breadth of the issues. So it creates an opportunity. Now, and I'm going to hand back to you, Kate, but I'll just say that First Ministers, Premiers, and myself, we've had a series of conversations on this, on what it means, what our priorities are, where we go from here. And I will say, give you two observations from that. One, we all recognize that the most important thing we can do is to continue to build this economy strong and unite this economy. That's job one. That immediate benefits for Canadians, and that is what we can control. And the second is to be united with respect to our strategy, our negotiating strategy, and our objectives. And part of that unity is recognizing that there isn't a series of little trade issues, they're broad trade issues. All of them have to be part of a comprehensive agreement. Thank you.
Prochaine question. Next question.
Eli Ritter, Canadian Press, question for the Prime Minister. Last year, you made the decision to remove many counter-tariff measures. So what kinds of trade retaliation measures are you willing to consider now, if any? And is everything on the table if there's no agreement before August 19th?
Everything's on the table if there's no agreement, depending on the outcome of the negotiations, yes. En français, le Canada va faire tout ce qui serait nécessaire, mais ça dépend sur les résultats des négociations avec les États-Unis.
Prochaine question. Next question.
Maria Saru, CTV News. For the Prime Minister, you told CTV News explicitly on July 12 that the splitting of profits or net revenue with the U.S. from the Gordie Howe Bridge would only happen after accounting for the debt of the bridge, but that's not what the text of the New Deal says. So, was that a lie, and were you downplaying your concessions to Trump?
Thank you for the question. First, let's be clear about what the deal is and isn't with respect to the bridge. And the first thing is, this is a good deal. This is a good deal for Canadian businesses, workers. It's a good deal for the future of our commerce with them. Put in context, there is about $300 billion a year of trade on the land link between Michigan and Ontario. And Premier Ford knows every dime of that trade. He's got it tracked. So $300 billion, a huge amount of trade. So this creates an important link, and it's an absolute, it's an engineering marvel, and it's a testament to the workers who created it. So that's. Secondly, the underlying agreement between Canada and Michigan remains in place. That's the underlying full text, weighty agreement. I'm illustrating the thickness of that agreement. It's in the public domain. Under that agreement, there is no splitting of tolls under that agreement, which is what I was referring to, perhaps imperfectly, but there's no splitting of tolls under that agreement until all of the debt is repaid, debt from Canada. For reference, and it depends on how much traffic and, there's various sensitivities, but for reference, that's about 50 years. It takes about 50 years for that to kick in. In parallel with this, there is an agreement in principle, which was published earlier this week, between Canada and the United States. And under that agreement, there is a sharing of net revenues after operating expenses, various other expenses, not including debt repayment. That's, I should have been clearer, that's referred to in the Michigan agreement with respect to tolls, but that is under the parallel agreement. But the sharing of proceeds with the United States goes into economic development that would support traffic ultimately on the bridge. So there's an alignment of incentives. The combination of that agreement and the sharing under that, it is a very marginal impact on the overall economics. Okay, very marginal, because it takes time for traffic to ramp up, there's various costs, there's various sharing, it gets fed back in. And to put it in order of magnitude, it's less than 5% in present value of the overall cost of developing the bridge. So that's the overall what it is, what it isn't. And yeah, could I have explained it better on a Sunday morning at Stampede? Yeah, with a cowboy hat on? Yes, I could have explained it better. And I explained it better in London, Ontario at GDLS, but I appreciate the opportunity. And Premier Ford would like to say something. Thank you.
Oh, in my opinion, he did it, the Prime Minister did an excellent job getting this deal done, getting $300 billion of goods across the border to create more opportunities, more jobs. Michigan is Ontario's #1 trading partner with over $70 billion of two-way trade. It's critical for the auto sector, it's critical for auto part manufacturers, and it's critical for all manufacturers that this bridge gets open. He did an incredible job, and I thank you for that.
Thank you both.
Next question. Prochaine question.
Bonjour, Frédéric Amarano de Radio-Canada. Ma question est pour la première ministre du Nouveau-Brunswick. Je comprends que le constat autour de la table, ce qui sort de cette réunion, c'est une volonté de faire un Canada plus fort. Encore une fois, je me demande, du point de vue néo-brunswickois, la province la plus dépendante des échanges avec les États-Unis, qu'est-ce que vous attendez de vos collègues? Qu'est-ce que vos collègues autour de la table peuvent faire pour justement aider les Canadiens et évidemment les néo-brunswickois à être moins dépendants des États-Unis? C'est quoi les prochaines actions?
Merci pour la question, Frédéric. Et je pense que les réunions des derniers deux jours démontrent exactement ça. Comme un pays canadien avec toute la diversité de ces beaux provinces, quand on travaille ensemble, quand on est notre meilleur client, on peut faire beaucoup de choses. Et on a vu ça avec le modèle d'avoir de l'alcool qui est disponible pour chaque Canadien qui vient de Nouveau-Brunswick. On sait qu'on fait des produits de craft beer, de bière excellents, qui veut en Colombie-Britannique, puis il veut en Ontario, et on peut maintenant le partager. Ça, c'est un exemple. Il y a plusieurs connexions. Des fois, c'est des connexions comme un pont à l'île du Prince-Édouard ou peut-être comme un fil subsea que nous sommes vraiment heureux d'avoir un investissement. Peut-être c'est l'intertie entre le Nouveau-Brunswick et la Nouvelle-Écosse, la raison pourquoi on a signé une entente avec les 3 provinces maritimes de partager, collaborer, connecter sur nos planifications énergétiques et nos opérations énergétiques. Et des fois, les connexions sont différentes. C'est des connexions familiales. C'est des connexions de valeurs. C'est une idée de vouloir se supporter, même s'il n'y a pas un bénéfice direct pour les Néo-Brunswickois, comme une des provinces qui était là en 1864, une des provinces qui était un fondateur de ce pays. On veut voir un Colombie-Britannique qui réussit. Et si on peut le supporter par des discussions autour de la table, un partage d'efforts, ça, c'est qu'est-ce qu'on va faire. Et on sait que nos collègues vont faire de même pour nous autres. Alors, on a un enjeu de tarifs sur les bois d'œuvre, et c'est la Colombie-Britannique, la Saskatchewan, le Québec, le Nouveau-Brunswick, avec le gouvernement fédéral, avec Dominique Leblanc. On partage ensemble, et mes collègues qui peut-être n'ont pas ce secteur, ils supportent le travail quand même, et ils nous laissent le temps pour le faire. Et nous autres, s'il y a des discussions au sujet des infrastructures dans l'Ouest, on supporte le temps comme un table de coéquipiers. C'est ça, nous sommes des coéquipiers tous pour l'équipe du Canada, et on cherche des façons ensemble qu'on peut se battre, on peut défendre l'économie, les valeurs et la société canadienne avec une menace comme le président Trump, de façon où on est plus fort, on se supporte Et on voit que ça fonctionne aujourd'hui. Il y a des opportunités pour le Canada autour du monde, le Nouveau-Brunswick, comme un central, un carrefour énergétique avec notre projet nucléaire, de nouveau nucléaire, avec notre projet hydroélectrique, avec notre projet de biomasse, avec notre géographie, avec notre expertise, puis nos connexions, des vraies connexions physiques et des connexions d'esprit et d'histoire. On peut jouer un rôle pour supporter les besoins énergétiques des Canadiens et de nos voisins, et plus que ça. Alors, je pense que le temps, c'est qu'on trouve des façons pour se supporter, des fois à cause qu'on a des économies qui sont intégrées, et des fois à cause du fait que nous sommes tous Canadiennes, premièrement.
Next question. Prochaine question.
David Aiken, Global News. Good afternoon, Premiers, Prime Minister. I have a question for the Prime Minister. You said this morning that all these governments would do whatever it takes to defend and support our families, our business, et cetera. And I'd like to hear after 3 hours of meeting, some specifics. Counter tariffs are a possibility, and so on, if you could provide some specifics. And then two, let's say you get this deal, CUSMA 2 with the President of the United States. You're going to have to convince a lot of Canadians skeptical of the trustworthiness of the President that no, this time he means it. He'll keep his word this time on CUSMA 2. How will you explain that the President can be trusted when he signs a document with your name on it? Thank you.
Well, first, in terms of doing whatever it takes, there's multiple aspects of that. First, and I won't repeat the whole element of, but it's building the economy and support. Like that's fundamental. It's diversifying our trade relations, is all that. Secondly, it is helping those sectors that are affected directly by the tariffs with financial support, supporting their workers, reorienting demand for some of their products where that's possible, providing some level of trade protection, if necessary, remissions, other aspects. So there's a variety of things, and we're working through that. We've been doing this and supporting literally tens of thousands of jobs in the 232 sectors, the strategic sectors, steel, aluminum, automobiles, and others, and we'll continue to do that with other sectors that are affected. The third is responding. If these tariffs or other measures come into force, and there's a full range of things that we can do in that regard. We don't need to respond in advance. In fact, I think it would be counterproductive at this stage to respond in advance. But it's important to know what your options are, to have worked it through, to have shared as it affects certain provinces or they have perspectives directly, and be united in that response. And I would say, and Premiers obviously speak for themselves, we are united in direction and objective and purpose and seriousness about the response. We are going to support Canadian families, workers, businesses, full stop. Now, to the second part of your question, first, I have to be convinced, we have to be convinced, the team has to be convinced, the Premiers have to be convinced that an agreement is worth the paper it's written on, and I think at the core of that is that the agreement recognizes the benefits, the very, very many benefits that trade with Canada brings, not just to Canadians, but to Americans. I mean, it's their self-interest. But it has to recognize, it has to be aligned, has to have provisions that reinforce, of course. But we will know when we see it. And I would say, we go in from Missouri, to use an American expression, on this. With wide eyes, lots of options, rolling up our sleeves, doing the work. We're working on behalf of Canadians, we'll know it when we see it. And final point, there are other things we could have done in the intervening time that we didn't do in agreements, perhaps because of the nature of your question. Monsieur.
Next question. Prochaine question. Étienne.
Oui, bonjour, Olivier Ferron-Boissé de TVA. Ma question est pour vous, Monsieur le Premier ministre. Sur le rapport de force qui vous attend à la table de négociation, sans représailles, avez-vous des leviers devant le président, alors que lui a ce tarif de 50% au-dessus de la tête des Canadiens?
On a plusieurs aspects de levier dans chaque négociation. Il faut avoir des options. Il faut avoir des options hors de la négociation. Il faut être solide, il faut être fort, il faut avoir d'autres options. Et ce qui est évident, que l'administration américaine remarque que le Canada est en train de créer des relations plus étroites avec d'autres économies, les européennes, les anglais, les grandes économies de l'Asie, tout cela. OK, il faut renforcer les options. Et la conversation aujourd'hui, nous avons discuté avec tous les premiers ministres des investissements ici au Canada, à peu près 500 milliards de dollars. 500 milliards de dollars. C'est énorme. Même aux États-Unis, ils sont des vrais projets que nous avons créés pendant les derniers 18 mois. Oui. Et nous venons de commencer. Alors, ça, c'est un autre aspect. Troisièmement, oui, il y a la possibilité de représailles. Ça existe. Mais il y a une autre incentive pour les Américains parce qu'il y a des autres possibilités pour coopération avec les États-Unis qui sont premièrement dans l'intérêt des Canadiens et des Canadiennes, mais en même temps dans l'intérêt des Américains. Et c'est un autre aspect de ma réponse à M. Aiken, parce que ça crée un alignement des intérêts. Mais tout cela, la première partie, c'est ce que nous contrôlons. Et il faut mettre l'emphase sur cela. Deuxième partie, c'est partie d'une négociation et les conséquences de négociations qui ne fonctionnent pas.
Prochaine question. Next question. Najud.
Najud Amlis, Bloomberg News. Prime Minister, earlier this week you said that President Trump and yourself agreed to intensify trade talks. Did the President signal to you a willingness to drop the latest tariffs if you reach a deal before August 19th?
Well, we are in negotiations for adjustments in all the tariffs and trade measures with the United States. So, yeah.
Next question. Prochaine question.
Patrice Bergeron, la presse canadienne. La question est pour vous, M. Carney. Ni ce matin dans votre discours, ni tout à l'heure, vous avez fait allusion, de quelque façon que ce soit, au financement du réseau de la santé, qui est une demande principale des provinces hier, qui ont tous crié à l'aide. Il y a un gros problème de financement des systèmes de santé et il y a des gens qui en souffrent. Jusqu'à quelle hauteur vous serez capable de répondre à la demande croissante en financement pour que le fédéral revienne à respecter les proportions qui finançaient autrefois le secteur de la santé?
Premièrement, la santé, c'est une chambre de compétences des provinces. Premier point. Deuxième, oui, nous avons un accord avec des provinces qui existent et le fédéral est une finance donne du financement important pour la santé. Ça, c'est clair. Nous avons décidé, et c'est dans le communiqué qui va être dévoilé immédiatement, peut-être déjà ou dans quelques instants. Nous avons décidé de dire nos ministres des Finances et ministres de la Santé de travailler sur tout cela. Alors, il y a du temps, c'est juillet de 2026.
2026.
Et oui, elle accorde. Il y a un changement, je sais, il y a une falaise là. Mais on a du temps, il faut faire le travail. C'est l'argent des Canadiens et des Canadiennes, c'est des impôts des Canadiens, c'est pas l'argent du gouvernement du Canada. OK? Et il faut faire le travail, il faut chercher des occasions pour d'augmenter la productivité dans le secteur de la santé et de prendre une décision avec toute l'information à cette table aussitôt que possible. OK? Aussitôt que possible. D'accord.
We'll have time for one last question.
I'd
Dernière
just
question.
like to jump in there. Je voudrais remercier le Premier ministre du Canada pour prendre l'avantage d'engager avec nous au sujet des fonds pour le système de santé dans le Canada. Nous avons eu la chance de partager nos défis, nos opportunités pour augmenter les investissements fédéraux. Il y a des projets au Manitoba qu'on a déjà fait en collaboration vis-à-vis des investissements dans la santé mentale et puis les soins pour tout le monde dans le Manitoba. Et puis, je pense que ce qu'on a vu aux tables aujourd'hui, c'est une collaboration. Oui, il y a des défis, mais il y a aussi des opportunités pour augmenter le niveau de service dans le système de santé pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes quand nous travaillons ensemble. Alors, oui, il y a des défis économiques au même temps, et puis on doit engager avec tout ça en même temps. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank the Prime Minister for engaging with us on healthcare today. We're going to keep working at the ministerial level, at the First Minister's table as well. But this is what we have to do as Canadians today. We have to be able to make the investments to advance healthcare, take care of our seniors, take care of our kids, at the same time that we're standing up for our economy, that we're standing up for national unity. And so what I saw was a united Team Canada, and I'm very, very proud. This is a country that can do great things. We've, defeated the Nazis. We've done tremendous tech innovation over the years, and we're the first nation of hockey globally. And so being able to handle healthcare at the same time that we grow the Canadian economy is definitely something that we're going to be able to do too.
We'll have time for one
Thanks.
last
I'd like to
question.
jump in
sorry.
here and just point out that we did pretty well in soccer as well this year, Wab. And thanks to the Prime Minister for the opportunity to discuss important issues around the table. From BC's perspective, the fiscal cliff on healthcare is a very serious and urgent issue. We're looking at March 2027 around the mental health agreement. There's the agreement around seniors care, really important funding agreements with the federal government. The commitment of the Prime Minister to sit down with us and engage through our ministers on this is crucial. My hope is that we can reach a solution quickly. Put the health issue behind us, have certainty for our own budgeting processes that are already getting underway across the country, and be able to focus on what's in front of us as United Canada around growing the economy to pay for those public services that British Columbians and all Canadians deserve, those huge generational and transformational investments in our country that British Columbia's work with the federal government and all of our provinces work with the federal government, the territories work is enabling. So let's get the healthcare work done so we can grow the economy and ensure we can pay for these public services that are badly needed.
We'll go to the last question. Dernière question.
Hi, Prime Minister. It's Stuart Lewis from the National Post. In the last 24 hours, Jameson Greer has come out with saying the U.S. wants to pursue interim agreements with Canada and Mexico, and they've been pursuing negotiations separately, but kind of divide and conquer tactic, shall we say. And so I'm curious about your ongoing positivity that we'll get a comprehensive agreement and perhaps even a trilateral one.
Okay, there's a few aspects of that. First, what Secretary Greer and his colleagues in the U.S. have indicated, including in the last 24 hours, is an intention, I can't remember exactly the language he uses, but that the foundation of what he would call USMCA remains intact. So he has a different metaphor for it, but effectively that the interim agreements would be consistent with the structure of USMCA. And you'd have bilateral that reflect the differences in our economy and the differences in some of the trade issues between us. It's a sensible approach. So first up, that's their approach. Now, secondly, in terms of, and let me say that the Mexicans have phones, we have phones. We travel to Mexico, they come here, we talk to them. We're not uninformed. We know what's going on. And we have very good and deepening ties with Mexico. And I'm going to take this opportunity to thank President Sheinbaum and the Mexican people for sending 200 firefighters to help us with our fires here. That's what friends do when you have crisis and fires. right? We do the same with the Mexicans. We do with the South Africans, the Australians, and others. But, this is our time of need, and Mexico is stepping up. The third thing is you imputed something in what I said, which is you said my positivity about getting a compromise. I didn't say that. I said that's what we want. That's what we're working towards. We have many strengths and assets. We're going to negotiate hard for that. And the reason we haven't signed a partial deal is because we're focused on those sectors. So that's where we are. And I guess let me make two final points just with respect to trade for the avoidance of doubt. The first is that the United States is due today, tomorrow, probably tomorrow, I guess, but certainly in the next few days, to come back on their 301 trade process. Addresses 60 countries, replaces what are called IEEPA tariffs, if you followed that, the 128 tariffs, and there's different justification, et cetera. I'm sure you're familiar with it. So they will make an announcement on that. We'll see what the announcement actually is, but that will not be, well, you can judge it at the time, it will not be news. We had a discussion. It will be, look, it's news, but it's not unexpected what's happening there, okay? It's part of the bigger puzzle. The second thing is that it is possible and entirely consistent with what Ambassador Greer said, is that there is an agreement with Canada, agreement with Mexico. I'm not giving positivity or negativity. I'm just telling you the process that addresses some of these bigger issues. But there is also a series of, and I don't want to downplay them, but technical issues with related, or trade irritants, as the Americans would call them, with respect to CUSMA. And that process extends towards the end of the year, which, and there are other possibilities as well. So that gives you a better sense maybe of the waterfront here. But the core here is that you have a united front of First Ministers. We're all working in the same direction for Canadians. Yes, protecting families, workers, businesses, but also building a better future. And what builds a better future, and we talked about this last night, we're at Dolve House, which was a great place to be hosted, and every single thing in that building, every element, every stone, every beam, every brick came from this island. Everything we enjoyed last night, the hospitality, the music, came from this island. It's a metaphor. We have exactly what we need right here in Canada to build a great, strong, fun, fair country. It goes back to the healthcare discussion et en même temps une série d'enjeux que Madame la Première ministre du Québec a soulevé en ce qui concerne la main-d'œuvre, l'immigration, plusieurs sujets. Et on a des premiers ministres qui travaillent pour des Canadiens et des Canadiens dans une étroite collaboration. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Premiers. This puts an end to our press conference. C'est ce qui met fin à notre conférence de presse. Merci.